I believe this is vlog number 8 of my EMDR journey. Today was a really lovely session. It was a continuation from last session where we did processing on a memory from my teenhood, somewhere where I struggled to speak up for myself with my ex-partner, the father of my child. And I remember her being in the buggy, and it was I'm a very visual person, and I remembered the memory with lots of visual things. So today we went back to the most recent event, one where I was with my partner and I had screamed at the steering wheel because I was so overwhelmed and unable to speak and unheard and felt that I couldn't share my emotions. I literally just screamed. Now that scream was so loud and it tore my vocal cords, I felt like, because my voice didn't come back to normal for a couple of weeks after. But the funny thing is, it actually felt really good. I felt so relieved, and nothing that feels that good can be so wrong, right? But I still attached the meaning to it, that it wasn't okay to scream, that it wasn't okay to behave that way, that I should somehow not do that. And I felt that my partner wasn't okay with it. So I went to the session today with the negative cognition that that it's not okay for me to share my emotions, that it's not okay for that to happen. And we went into the processing with the EMDR. I was looking left and right and following the dot. And when you do that, all of the lessons come up. So it's as if the dot is reaching to all of these various points in your mind. And one of them came out with, it's okay to scream. If I have an emotion that strong and I need to scream, it's okay to scream. And even in that moment, I screamed. I didn't scream at her. I screamed. I just screamed. I just needed to scream. I just needed to get it out. You know that feeling? That's why I felt so good. And I'm not wrong for that. And it's not wrong to scream, and it's not wrong to feel my emotions. And all of these beautiful lessons came out. And I thought this was a recent thing. I thought that I just felt frustrated in that relationship and I wasn't able to voice my feelings. But actually it relates to some of the Nicola that became a people pleaser, because I felt that it wasn't okay to cry. I was told I was brave if I didn't cry, so I took on this facade that I need to be strong and brave and not show emotions, and that made me more acceptable by others. It meant that I was admired even. It meant that my pain threshold was higher than other people, and I can endure pain. I can endure physical pain, and I put myself through hell physically by over-exercising and punishing myself in the gym. But not only that, check this one. I don't think I screamed during childbirth because I suppressed the scream. That hurts a little bit. It feels like an injustice to myself and to all women. And I know other women will relate. Imagine not screaming in childbirth because you don't want to be seen or heard or judged for having a deep emotion. Oh, that hurts a bit. And at the end, when you do the lessons, your negative cognition becomes a positive. So you now look at how much do you believe the positive cognition. And for me, the positive cognition is I can safely feel and share my emotions. And so I thought about even times when I was a child and I was told off by a teacher, I used to feel strong emotions and I used to cry. And I had that same feeling when I used to be in the corporate world and I'd be told off by my boss and I felt like, oh, I want to cry. But obviously I'm at work, I'm an adult, I'm not allowed to cry. And I suppressed those feelings. And I thought, with my new positive cognition, I'm self-employed, I can do what the hell I want, right? But it's also seen not appropriate to cry in front of people when you're doing a speech, when you're doing whatever. But I feel like it's okay now. And I got to this with speeches anyway, because I used to cry when I did speeches, because I always speak about vulnerable stuff. I always go first. I always share my experience. And I remember searching online to see if there are any speakers that share their emotions. And I actually do prefer the speakers who do share their emotions, because they're more human and you relate to them. We all have empathy. And when you see someone speaking about their own journey and they have an emotion about it, that's normal. It's okay. And you go on the journey with them when they do that. And the parts of you that have resonated with what they're saying, you really feel it. And when you get to the end and they've empowered themselves by doing some XYZ in their life, and you've been that person before and now you're on the journey with them, you also have hope, and you can be inspired by their story and their journey. So I am of the opinion that when I do talks and speeches and workshops, that sharing my emotions is fine. And I look back at past events, like if I was in the corporate world, if I did have a manager, and if I did have conflict and conversations, it's all right. It's all right to feel my emotions. It's all right to be vulnerable. It's all right to cry. I don't care. And the other lesson that came up from it was that it's not me, it's other people, and how other people don't feel comfortable with emotions. So the same with body image. The more I didn't like my body, the more judging I was of other people's body image. I said this to my friend. She's doing a multi-level marketing business, and a lot of people are judging her for it. And I said to her, I wonder if it's how I felt with being gay, with coming out as bisexual. When I had a bit of internalized homophobia myself, I worried about telling other people about it because I thought they'd judge me. And the only reason I worried is because I was judging me. And once I let go of that, I don't care who I tell, because I don't think there's anything wrong. So it's about me and me feeling comfortable with who I am and accepting myself fully, that I can present myself anywhere in the world to anyone, and it doesn't matter what they think of me. Like, I literally don't care what people think of me. So going back to that, I just went off on a tangent. Crying in meetings, feeling your emotions might be seen as not okay because the other people around you, they feel uncomfortable when people have emotions. Now, if you get okay with having your emotions and you get okay with expressing them, then those people will be okay too. I truly believe that. And also, when you don't suppress, because you know that feeling, and this also came up in the thing, at funerals, I have that feeling that it's so emotional, especially if it's a funeral that isn't a close family member of mine and it's someone else's and their family aren't crying. I feel like I want to cry, but I'm not allowed to cry. So the resistance builds and builds and builds, and it's like a big lump in my throat. And then as soon as I cry, it's such relief. It feels amazing that I'm gonna give it to myself now. I'm gonna own it. I'm going to cry. If I go to a funeral, I'm gonna cry. If I have a tough, conflicting conversation, I'm gonna cry if it comes up. And because I allow myself to, it may just be a bit of emotions and it goes away. Same as when I do a speech. I might talk about a tough part in my life, emotions comes up, I take a deep breath, and then we move on. Nothing happens. No one's judging. And if they are, fuck them. Because ultimately, I'm the one doing the speech. If you don't want to hear it, then it's not for you to hear. Because the people that are there and the people that stick it out to the end, they needed to hear it. And I always used to say, if I only touch one person with my talks, then it's worth it. And there's a hell of a lot more than one person these days. But it doesn't matter. If it's that one person who needed it, like I needed it back in the day, and I heard someone speak, and it inspired me and it helped me move through a problem that I thought was mine alone, I want to be that for someone else. And we can be that for each other if we share our emotions. So today's session was lovely. Really, really lovely. And I also had hope for the future. I had hope that with my partner, we don't have to be fixed. We don't have to be fixed. I can be anxiously attached. I can feel that anxiety. I can share it with her. I can be okay with it. And then she can either help me with it, or I can go away and break away and know what I need to do to self-soothe and sort myself out. Rather than judge it and think that I'm wrong and try to suppress it, perhaps it won't go, perhaps it will just go, oh, okay, that's what that is. I'm going to take it over here and I'm going to look after myself. If I have a boundary around looking after myself, I can take myself over here and look after myself, or I can share it and see if the other person is open to looking after me. And if they are, a secure person can make an anxious person feel secure, and vice versa. Because the more I'm likely to share my emotions, the more the people around me will share theirs with me, and the more I can hold space for them. And when I'm not anxious and someone else is anxious, I can be the secure one. I can hold space for that person. And it's not too sensitive, it's not too much emotions, it's not too much tears, because there's a child in there. There is an inner child. Maybe they're this small, maybe they're this small. There is an inner child in there, in me, in you. If you're watching this, you have an inner child. Maybe you don't have an anxious one, maybe you have a depressed one, maybe you have a sad one, maybe you have all of the above, but they're children. If you go back to them and ask them what age they are, so we shouldn't tell them they're too much, they're too sensitive, they're too needy. They're not. They just haven't had that need met at that age, and we can give that to them now. I'm willing to give that to mine now. And because of that, I'm willing to give that to my children now. So being a better parent to my inner children makes me a better parent to my current children. And it makes me more empathetic and compassionate to the people around me and their emotions and what they're experiencing. So today was a really, really positive session. And I want to keep these videos short and sweet, so I'm going to leave it there. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you what happens next week. See you on the other side.